The clinking of silverware and the hollow sound of forced laughter formed a fragile bubble around my birthday dinner, a bubble I had paid for, and one I prayed wouldn't pop. For a moment, I let myself believe the lie. Maybe this year would be different. Maybe my mother would see me, Lauren, her daughter, and not just a supporting character in my brother Nathan's story. But hope is a delicate thing, and my mother was a sledgehammer. Her whisper cut through the pretense, sharp and clear. While everyone's here, tell your son to go change the locks at her apartment. The air left my lungs. My own birthday, my own celebration, turned into a covert operation against me. I saw my father's slight nod, the unhesitating betrayal. I didn't react. My heart was a stone in my chest as I forced a smile, cutting a piece of cake I could no longer taste, and watched my brother leave. The jingle of his car keys sounded like a death knell for the last shred of my hope. An hour later, he returned, his face a ghastly white against the crisp restaurant linen. He looked like a man who had stared into an abyss. "Mom," he whispered, his voice trembling, "there's police tape around her door." The world froze. Every fork halted. Every fake smile died. My father's frown was a thundercloud. "What kind of joke is this?" "It's not a joke," Nathan choked out. "There's an officer." He said, "There was an incident." The air in the room turned to ice. My mother's face, once a mask of control, drained of all color. "What incident?" she demanded, her voice fraying at the edges with a fear I didn't understand. Before he could answer, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. A message that turned my blood to frozen sludge. "M. Reeves, this is Officer Grant from Portland PD. Please contact us immediately regarding your apartment." The screech of my chair against the floor was a scream in the sudden silence. "Lauren, what in God's name is going on?" my mother cried out, her voice quivering with a panic that felt alien. I couldn't answer. A numbness had taken hold, a protective shell around the storm of hurt and fear raging inside. I just walked out, leaving their chorus of questions behind me, each one a needle in my heart. Outside, the night air was sharp as broken glass. My hands shook so badly I could barely grip my keys, but beneath the tremor, my mind was terrifyingly clear. Police tape at my home meant the violation was real. When I reached my apartment, the swirling red and blue lights painted my world in the colors of crisis. Officer Grant's face was grim. "Miss Reeves. There was a break-in. Your door was forced, but nothing appears stolen." He paused, his eyes searching mine. "Do you have any idea who might have had access to your keys?" The truth was a bitter pill on my tongue. "My brother, Nathan Reeves," I whispered, the words tasting like ash. The officer's pen stilled. "And why would your brother break into your apartment?" A single, hot tear finally escaped, tracing a path down my cheek. I didn't wipe it away. "Because," I said, my voice cracking, "my mother told him to." His radio crackled to life, a voice cutting through the night. "We've got a match on the prints inside. Sending ID to command." Officer Grant's expression shifted, a flicker of pity in his eyes that scared me more than anything. "Ms. Reeves," he said softly, "you might want to sit down for this." I sank onto the cold curb, the dampness seeping through my dress, mirroring the chill in my soul. He crouched beside me. "The prints belong to a man named Thomas Hale. Does that name mean anything to you?" My breath hitched. "Thomas. The landlord's nephew. The one who did maintenance." Grant nodded slowly, seeing the recognition in my eyes. "He's in custody. We have footage of him using a copied key. He's been paid," he continued, his voice gentle but firm, "by an anonymous account traced back to your mother." The world tilted. My own mother. She hadn't just sent my brother, she had hired a stranger to violate my sanctuary. The betrayal was so profound, so absolute, it felt like the floor had vanished from beneath me. He led me inside. My home felt foreign, violated. And then I saw it. Every single framed photo of me and my son, Liam, every moment of pure, uncomplicated love in my life, had been violently flipped face down. On the coffee table lay a single, stark white envelope. My hands trembled as I opened it. The message inside was short, but its words were daggers. Tell your mother the truth. What is buried always finds its way home. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a random break-in. It was a message. And my mother's panic wasn't about control anymore, it was the raw, primal fear of a secret about to be unearthed. The next evening, she stood at my door, her perfume a familiar weapon. You shouldn't have involved the police, she said, stepping inside as if she still had the right. A sob threatened to choke me, but I swallowed it down. You hired a criminal to break into my home, I managed, my voice thick with unshed tears. You don't understand, she snapped, but her mask was slipping, revealing the terrified woman beneath. Your father, those papers you found, he could go to prison. We were protecting you. Protecting me? The words tore from me, ragged and pained. You put my name on fake deeds. You hid your crimes inside my life. You dragged my son into this mess. For 29 years, I trusted you, and you built your lies on my back. For the first time, I saw a crack in her armor. Her shoulders slumped, and her voice dropped to a broken whisper. We did it for the family. No, I cried, tears streaming freely down my face now. You did it for yourselves. You sacrificed me to save your own skins. She turned to leave, a stranger in my mother's skin. At the door, she delivered her final, devastating blow. If you do this, Lauren, you will never have a family again. The words shattered what was left of my heart. I looked at her, through the blur of my tears, and found a strength I didn't know I possessed. Then maybe, I whispered, my voice breaking, it's time I build one worth having. The door clicked shut, and the silence that followed was the most heartbreaking sound I had ever heard. I slid to the floor, the sobs finally racking my body, mourning the death of the family I'd always longed for. The next morning, with a resolve forged in grief, I drove to the Financial Crimes Division. The evidence folder on the passenger seat felt like it held the weight of my entire life. Officer Grant met me, his eyes kind. You're sure about this? A fresh wave of tears welled up, but they were clean tears, tears of release. I'm done, I whispered, handing him the file. I'm done being their secret keeper. That afternoon, I picked up my son, Liam, from a doctor's appointment. He ran into my arms, a bright gold star stuck proudly to his shirt. Mom, look. I was brave. I hugged him tightly, burying my face in his soft hair, breathing in his innocent, uncomplicated love. So was I, baby, I cried softly into his shoulder. So was I. A month later, the storm had passed. The headlines ran, the accounts were seized, and the silence from my parents was no longer a punishment, but a profound, aching peace. I hosted a small dinner for the friends who had become my true family. As we toasted, my dear friend Jenna said, to freedom. To starting over. I looked around the room, at the faces of those who loved me without condition, and then at my son, sleeping safely in his bed. My heart, once broken, felt full. To never apologizing, I said, my voice steady and sure, for protecting the family you choose. I stood by the window, watching the city lights, which now seemed like 1,000 points of hope. They had taught me the most painful lesson of all, that love should never, ever require the surrender of your soul. And in learning that, I had finally come home.